What's up guys, Mr. Dan here, back again. This is the third video in my recommend series. I decided to put this one out simultaneously with my second one, since my second one was actually the movie Terror in the Aisles, which was recommended to me by the horror man, Joe. I actually went ahead and got a physical copy of the special edition for Halloween 2, because as an extra feature, a bonus feature, it had the entire movie of Terror in the Aisles. And as you can see, I'm almost all the way through the TV cut as well. So I'm working on these two videos simultaneously, and I decided to put them out simultaneously because obviously Jason from the Horror Man and Joe from the Horror Man and Jason from Horrific Nightmares JM collaborated on this project. So, the movie that Jason has recommended to me, or that I decided to watch due to his recommendation, was one that was sort of in the back of my mind since, well, I was a kid. Not a young kid, but I would say I was in double digits at least, and it kind of scared me a little bit. Wings Hauser movies used to scare me back in the day, even though I hadn't seen any. Just the voiceovers were very menacing. It was always like, Wings Hauser. You know, he just seemed to be like straight up murdering people in the trailers, whether he was a cop or a criminal, and he scared me. So, you know, I'm sure if I had ran into it eventually, I would have watched it, but I just never had the chance. And then I saw Jason's review of Vice Squad for Terror in the Aisle, so I went ahead and watched it on Tubi, and I did enjoy it. It had, great 80s feel, very sleazy, very gritty, very much an LA kind of a movie. You know, they open up with a montage of the LA streets at night, and it's just dirty and grimy, and, you know, there's pimps and prostitutes and people of the night out all over the place. And basically, you have a single mom who's a prostitute who is out on the streets, and a friend of hers gets beaten by her pimp, who's named Ramrod, who's played by Wings Hauser. And this has got to be like one of his signature roles. I mean, he's a pimp named Ramrod. He dresses like a cowboy. He's got big posters of Elvis up in his apartment. And he drives a big Bronco that says Ramrod on the back, on the wheel cover. And he's basically just a sadistic brute of a guy. Like a sweet talker, a charmer. You know, he'll charm you, and then he'll just beat you up. So he's very misogynistic. So some trigger warnings are in order. You know, this is a movie about that kind of nightlife. He's not a nice guy. You see him beat up a lot of females in this movie, and it's pretty gruesome. He's a bad guy. And on the streets, you'll hear some racist and homophobic language, too. Having said that, I did like the cops in this film. Not so much the lead, played by Gary Swanson. I was a little conflicted about him. I'm of two minds about Gary Swanson. He just didn't kind of register for me. Let me make sure I got that name right. Yeah. But then again, that opened up, like if this was a Charles Bronson movie, it would have been like total Charles Bronson vehicle. You know, the fact that the police, even though Gary Swanson was like the head detective trying to track, the head detective on the Vice Squad going after Ramrod, it was almost like an ensemble cast. You had multiple partners. You had kind of this duo that had a tendency to get themselves beat up frequently, and then you had another woman, on the surface very mismatched looking, and a guy looked like the male partner looked kind of like the Marlboro Man, and she was a very stylishly dressed. And then you had Pepe Serna, you know, character actor that a lot of people recognize, and his partner. And you know, I just kind of like the way that all the cops were working together, sometimes screwing up, sometimes chastising each other. And the Gary Swanson character was kind of like pushing them to find this guy Ramrod. And I kind of skipped the plot. and basically the main character played by Season Hubley basically helps the police go after Ramrod and arrest him, but he escapes. This guy, I mean, you think you got him cornered, and he just gets out of it time and time again. He's just like relentless, and he's brutal. I mean, the police are pointing guns at him. He's got a hostage. He picks up a stool while they're pointing guns at him and just starts bashing somebody in the head with it. I mean, this guy is like constantly like smacking people's heads off at tables, and he's got all these connections out on the streets, and he kind of intimidates his way into getting what he wants. Some guy hooks him up. He's even in handcuffs at one point and gets away and gets the handcuffs sawed off, and then he gets a hold of a switchblade and a powerful firearm. And I will say this. If you are interested in this movie, I would actually watch this first before Terror in the Aisles. Because this movie and the movie Nighthawks with Sylvester Stallone are two movies where they really give away a lot of the end, if not the actual climax of the films in Terror in the Aisles. More so than any other movies, I think. So if you're interested in this, if you're a Wings Hauser guy, or if you're an 80s sleaze guy, an 80s detective kind of a person, I shouldn't just say guy, this is your movie here. But they do give a lot away. So I would watch the movie first before Terror in the Aisles. Kind of Wings Hauser's movie. He pretty much carries it. I mean, I mean, listen, it's not a perfect film. There's a couple goofy parts. There's the part where the two detectives go into like a pay by the hour motel looking for a suspect, and there's an older Asian man who promptly busts out with some martial arts moves and basically kicks their asses all over the place. He's just throwing them around like nothing. It's a little stereotypical, but I mean, it is kind of funny. But yeah, it's that kind of a film. If you're in, you should probably know. I mean, if you're into films like this is for you. Okay. Vice Squad. So I appreciate the recommendation from Jason at Horrific Nightmares JM. And I will be back in the future with more recommends videos. I'm pretty sure Jason and Joe and Nye will all show up again in the recommend series, since they've already recommended to me several other films. I'm going to try to branch out and get some recommendations from some other YouTubers as well. Do you guys have a favorite film from Terror in the Aisles, or that was featured in Terror in the Aisles? In the Aisles. Or do you have a favorite Wings Hauser movie? Okay, real quick. Years later, when I saw the Mystery Science Theater version of the film Mutant with Wings Hauser, it really kind of took away a lot of that menace that he had, and when he was complaining about only eating fresh croissants, not store-bought croissants. That was pretty. That was not the Wings Hauser that I remembered seeing in those trailers that used to scare me. But he's a good actor though. I mean, he will have small roles in major films like A Soldier's Story, and on TV and shows like Roseanne. I mean, he's a very solid actor. Don't get me wrong. And, well, as long as we're telling Wings Hauser stories, I remember years ago listening to Howard Stern, and Howard Stern was kind of making fun of Wings Hauser. He was talking about some of those trailers and the voiceovers that I was talking about. And I guess, kind of making fun of him that he was in a lot of what you would call B movies. And he called into the show. And he started talking about his life story growing up next to Bob Denver, from Gilligan's Island, and how Bob Denver had a chimpanzee that would go nuts sometimes, and it seemed to be going well. I forget what happened though. Stern said something that pissed him off, and they got kind of irritated at each other. But yeah, he seems like a cool guy. I mean, and of course his son Cole Hauser is really kicking ass now in Yellowstone, from my understanding. I haven't watched the show. Anyway, there you go, Vice Squad. I do recommend it. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later.